So this is another module that packs a heavy hitter. I really the downside is we only have, a short amount of time with our students. And there's so many topics we want to give you guys because they're just so interesting and so much fun to talk about. And the new minds means new solutions. So we want it out there. So for this one right here, you got a handful of stuff as usual. You will have slides that you could pull from. And then outside the slides, you do have the experts again in the room talking to us. So lead on those for your foundation. And then for your assignments, it's a little different it's a little different this time around. um, start doing these videos and your mouth doesn't work anymore. So you'll notice that this module has 2 weeks in it. So during the second week, you will have your quiz, and here it is as usual. But the first part of the module, week one of module five, is where you'd be doing your assignments. So you can see you have quite a few materials here. I have broke up your assignments into different categories. We have basic allocation of resources. You have discrimination in the medical field. You also have veteran care, and we have drug dependency or drug dependent users. So for your week five choices, you have three here. And basically, so this basic allocations, this is again going to be more foundation stuff. You could use these in all of your choices. And then we have right here, we have two essays and a discussion board. Drug dependency crisis. So this one right here is an essay that was actually inspired by a former student who was a drug dependent user at one time. And through the 12-step process and many years of just bravery, courage, and grit, pulled themselves through the crisis, and now they are in recovery. Together, we designed this assignment, and what this assignment is going to do, it is going to have you uh, read and listen to the narratives from people who are going through that situation, and you're going to be asked some questions on what you think about their struggle, what do you think about their questions, what do you think about what they're doing, and that's just kind of and how they interact with the medical staff. So this is a really interesting one. It's new, and I really like this one because this one probably has the most human element I have seen in quite a while. So again, a post and go for this one. The other essay one right here is veterans and lack of healthcare. This is another one that's inspired by one of my students that we worked on together. And this was this veteran expressing an extreme frustration for giving everything that they had physically and mentally, and then just coming out of that situation into healthcare that was promised, that wasn't necessarily delivered, and how that impacts them as a patient, how that impacts medical field as a whole. And another one I thought was an interesting aspect that they bring up, and you'll see it in the course materials. Veterans oftentimes, they said, um, are not always the best advocates for themselves. They will, listen to what you have to say. You're the doctor. I'll do what I got to do. So I trust you. And they said it took them a long time to realize that wasn't always the case, that they are their best advocate and they need to educate themselves on what their condition is, what resources are available to them, and try to figure out what questions to ask, because it did seem at times they weren't being fully informed before they gave consent to things. So they felt like they were still the guinea pig in the room. So it's an interesting assignment that we created together. And again, if you have an idea for an assignment, you want to work on it together, please message me. The more this class is driven by real world cases, the better this class will be in terms of understanding what these medical dilemmas really are. They're not just words in a textbook, these are people's lives. And the more we can make these assignments about that, the absolute better. So the last one right here is um, racial discrimination. Now, this one I wouldn't say was inspired by a student in the class. This one I actually pulled from the textbook and designed it, but this is probably the one that has gotten the most attention because this is a bigger problem, I think, that even anyone wants to talk about nowadays. So it does tend to get the most traction. And from a lot of the comments on this assignment has helped me better write these instructions and cases and make this assignment so much stronger. So this is it. This will be a discussion. So pick a case and then you'll discuss it with each other. All right. So this video is a little bit longer because I'm going to go into week two. So this does have a week two. So in a week two, you'll see that you have your quiz. There's your quiz prep. Here's your quiz. But you also see that we have another assignment. You will do both part one and part two in the same week. So do part one early, like Wednesday, Thursday, and then come back over the weekend and discuss. Basically, what you're going to do is I have given you um, a situation. Now, I've taken this from case studies that they have in medical students and medical administration books, and I've kind of tweaked it a little for us. But basically, you are a hospital administrator. They've come to you with an issue. This is the dilemma. This is the hospital. This is the hospital, and this is the issues they're having. They need you to come up with a crisis action plan to satisfy all the needs of the people, or cut your losses somewhere. So this is a really interesting one. So basically for part one, just post and go and leave it here. We will come back and look at your responses and we will take your responses into consideration when we do part two. For part two, we will actually look at your stuff and be like, okay, here's where and we'll post it here. And I'll be like, hey, I pulled John's after action, you know, and this is what I think, so you are going to post the strengths it had. I would highlight maybe like 5 or 6 different highlights that he had. Analyze the areas for improvement. Be tactful, be respectful. This is where it gets the heated, and sometimes some students are just blunt. I'm like, oh, I thought I did good there, but it's all in good fun. So, and then a summary like, hey, overall, I think this action plan was really good. If you have time, you can even do a couple of action plans. It just depends on how much time you have to look at this. One time we actually did have a hospital administrator in the class who was taking this class, and theirs were really good. They actually highlighted a lot of strengths that the student hadn't even realized were kind of baked in there when they were making their decisions. And they were really good about pointing out, like, hey, while this looks like this is a positive thing, this would actually have a second and third order effect down the way. So, and it was really cool. They had experience in firefighting, and it was just a whole thing. That was really cool. Okay, so that's what we're doing for this module. It's a really kind of fun, interesting module. It's kind of a hodgepodge of it, but basically, at the end of the day, what you want to kind of discuss is just the moral framework around allocating all of our medical resources. If I only have 10 band-aids, but 20 people have wounds, who gets them? So that's the gist of it. So, all right, let me know how I can help.